Well, we made it to the end of WandaVision, and this is another daily cinephile vlog. And I'm just going to tell you some of my thoughts on the final episode. It was okay. Okay, so, there's just going to be spoilers in this, obviously. So if you haven't been watching already, like I said previously in other videos, don't really know why you're watching a vlog about it, but I'll just quickly go over some of my thoughts, but this is pretty much gonna be spoiler-filled, just real quick, if you want to know my thoughts without the spoilers. I thought it was okay, and it worked. I liked the rest of the series. I thought a lot of the other episodes were much better, and then the finale was okay. So let's really get into it now. I feel like the last few episodes have been kind of downplaying my excitement for them, mostly because I don't know if they were necessarily as exciting as the other episodes, just because things started to wind down a little. The secrets, there didn't seem to be as many anymore. There wasn't as much to talk about. Seemed like it was starting to be a little more straightforward, especially the last two episodes. The episode they did kind of more on Modern Family, and then the last episode before this one, which kind of went over some of the history of Wanda's past. And, you know, like I said in those, I said I didn't like those episodes as much as some of the earlier episodes, but they still did a lot of things I really liked, and I was really happy to see come out of something from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially with the last episode, which I don't know if I praised quite enough as I should have. Was really cool to finally see them really get into the emotion of Wanda and Vision's characters, which is really necessary, especially for a couple that was very underdeveloped up until this point. And, you know, I said that I felt like they were just kind of going over stuff we've already, we already known about. We didn't necessarily see it, but we already knew about a lot of it. And I still don't know exactly how I feel about that, but the emotion of it really worked. And the emotion was, they nailed it. So this episode is trying to kind of tie all the loose ends, bring it all together, and wrap up the whole series and all its different plot lines. Kinda. So it wraps up Wanda's story, sort of, and it wraps up Vision's story, kind of, and the other characters are not really in it as much, and some of the other things that I think a lot of fans got really excited about didn't really get touched upon again. So this was mostly an ending to Wanda's circumstance within the Hexagon and her fighting Agatha, which is, you know, the main point of the show. It was about Wanda. And I was happy to see them finally, you know, really challenge her character and really come to terms with her grief over losing Vision, especially given the fact that, you know, I saw a lot of people kind of point out in previous episodes, they showed this, that a lot of people got back their loved ones, and when she went to the sword building, you know, she sees, there's those, like, videos being played about people reuniting with their loved ones, while she just still permanently lost the person she loved. So, it was really cool to see them go into all that grief, but I don't know. There was a couple things as far as the mechanics of the episode that I didn't enjoy, and there was things about the actual wishy-washiness of it all. See, I don't know if there's going to be a second season of this show, but it doesn't seem like there was going to be. But even if there was, I don't know if I would necessarily call this a great season finale, because I feel like it didn't go as hard as it should have. It took a lot of chances earlier on in the season, but I felt like with the final episode, it didn't really decide to make a stand one way or another. You know, it's because Wanda has lost everything, and she's just got to deal with this grief, and possibly moves on from it. She never really figures out her powers, or exactly how she did the hexagon, but as she sort of wraps things up saying, I don't know exactly where I'm at. I'm in a transition point. She didn't say this exactly, but that's how I feel. She's at a transition point in her life. She doesn't have herself quite figured out, and she doesn't need to answer to everybody at the moment because she needs to deal with this in her own way and go away. And, she realizes she's got to stop hurting people, of course. But there's another part of me that kind of wonders, well, I feel like they're trying to give some finality to everything where, maybe she kind of finally moved on from Vision. These children that never existed, which became quite obvious early on, that these kids weren't going to be real. They aren't real. She's able to let them go and just kind of finally move on to the next stage of her life, possibly. And maybe not. They kind of take a slight turn with the after credits sequence that maybe she's not exactly moving on to the next stage of her life, or at least if she is, it could be actually a darker stage of her life. But I felt like it wasn't properly letting go of everything the way it was trying to. Like, they had this big goodbye moment between her and Vision. Because the hexagon is finally closing, and, that's another thing. Like, a lot of this was pretty obvious as far as, like, the standard, what would happen in the third act of any story or movie would go, which I wouldn't say has ever been Marvel's strongest suit. Third acts, probably not. There's very few, I think, third acts that I think play out uniquely and enjoyable all around. I think they usually just have some pretty standard fight sequences, which this one did a lot. I was not a big fan of the action in this altogether. I thought the fight sequences were very boring. But yeah, things start to tread along in the most kind of obvious fashion. The hexagon is getting closed. Agatha does get, defeated. And there's a lot of it about, like I said, about the mechanics of how it all works, where it doesn't seem to really point in one direction or another. Like, maybe in the beginning of the series, we're kind of given this idea of like, ooh, who's doing all this? And how is Wanda doing all this? And we don't really know what's going on. Does she even know? And we don't really get any answers to that. And not that we need them, but that's what I mean. This show is so wishy-washy about everything. It doesn't even seem like it's trying to point us in any direction because it doesn't want to figure it out. Not because the audience shouldn't be figuring it out, because I don't think they even have it figured out. I don't think they really know how all the mechanics of this magic work. You see her and Agatha fighting back and forth, and some of the people, their powers are getting sucked down, some of them can blast it back at them, and it kind of goes on for a long time, and I don't really understand what the rules of this magic are. Some of the spells are pretty straightforward, but a lot of them just really aren't. And then, like I said, with the mechanics of it all, she doesn't really ever explain or figure out how this hexagon exactly works or how she was able to use her powers. And maybe they'll go into later, but I just feel like they really didn't end up caring in the end. And, there's maybe a point to that because it was really much more about the journey and about the emotion of it all rather than what the mechanics of her magic is and such. But, with Agatha showing up, they made such a big deal about the mechanics of it all and how she was doing everything. And it's kind of weird that we just kind of got no explanation about it. It's weird to me, too, because, like I said, as far as her letting go of Vision finally as the hexagon closes, she does this final goodbye that's meant to be very sad. There's a part of me that doesn't really feel like she's giving up on Vision, because, one, he's within the hexagon, which I don't know if it was destroyed because, I guess she shrinks it and it's like possibly it wasn't destroyed, but also Agatha said once you create a spell, it never goes away. So I guess the hexagon is still alive forever, but maybe just incredibly shrank down. And Agatha is actually stuck in it. How is she stuck in it exactly? I don't know. But once again, this goes back to the fact that they're not really explaining the mechanics of it all. And I feel like they're doing it not because they're trying to save the mystery. I feel like they're doing it because they just don't want to explain it. That they aren't going to explain it. But let's just say the hexagon was shrunk and that Agatha is still stuck within it. Vision's still in there too, and so are the kids. And, as much as I want to feel like she's letting go of everything, she finally moved on, I don't really feel like that's what the ending's doing because, one, Vision is still in that hexagon, so are the kids. 2, the end credit sequence actually has the kids still screaming for help, and she can hear them, so she's like maybe gonna reach out to them. She's doing this thing kind of like Doctor Strange did in the Doctor Strange movie, where he was like studying while he was asleep. So Wanda's like studying this dark arts magic book while she's doing normal activities around this cabin. This is during the end credit sequence, and in that kind of second form of herself that's reading the book, she can hear her kids still screaming in the back. So I don't know if that's supposed to be her still in the hexagon with them, and that was supposed to throw off the audience. Maybe she kept a part of herself in there, or if she still has a lingering for the hexagon. But that's my whole point, is that the ending tries to give this poignancy, like she maybe moved on, or she's moving on to the next step or something like that, but I don't really feel like she is. And if that's not what the point of the ending is, then I don't like how unambiguous it is. I don't really like that there doesn't really seem to be a whole lot of direction to it. Maybe it'll make more sense with later movies and sequels and such, but right now it just kind of makes me feel like I don't know how I feel about this whole thing. It just kind of doesn't feel like there's anything complete here. The other problem is that as far as Vision goes, there's like another Vision out there now. And yeah, we were led up to him in the last episode, but in an interesting take on the original source material, which I heard the White Vision was evil, this one evil in a way, but Vision starts to give him memories of his former self and starts to challenge him, which kind of was like the best part of their battle, was like Vision doing what he does, which is like very philosophically trying to get into this guy's head and speak with him and theorize with him. And the other White Vision flies off. Is he going to show up later? I don't know. Is he going to be the real Vision now with all the powers? I don't know, but I feel like they are going that route, or at least he'll be close enough to the original Vision that he'll end up meeting up with Wanda in the future. And that's what I mean. It goes back to this whole notion of like, she's not really letting go of him because he still kind of exists. He exists in the hexagon, and then there is a real version of him out, a version of him out there. So it kind of makes me feel like they want it both ways, where they're trying to create this compelling moving on story, some real finality to it, but also adding a lot of extra things to it where we can go back if we want. We can do all these other things again if we want. We can have these characters come back if we want. And I don't know how I feel about that. So that whole part of it I was not really into. But there was other stuff that was like, okay, I did like that, like I said, it started to, the acting in this whole series has been very good, and I like that there's a lot of challenges being thrown Wanda's way, and it is very good, but I just don't feel like the actual closure of it all is a real closure. And I know it's not meant to be, because there are going to be sequels and such, but I guess I don't really know what the direction is next. And I don't know. I guess maybe that's the point. She feels like that too. She doesn't know what's next. She doesn't even fully understand her powers. But I just felt like you can't really end something like a TV show that way, or if it's meant to be one season anyway, or if it's going to be just ending up leading it directly into Doctor Strange 2. I don't know. A lot of things didn't come to fruition that a lot of fans were talking about. There wasn't some big reveal of a cameo. Some people have been saying that Paul Bettany was just joking, and that the person he really always wanted to act with was just himself, because there's 2 Paul Bettanys in this, possibly. But I wonder if there was something mistaken there, or if something happened earlier, or maybe there was an actor that we didn't realize he actually always wanted to work with that already appeared. There was no big like Thanos reveal. There was no X-Men reveal. There was no Doctor Strange reveal, and there was no Ultron reveal. James Spader. Which, I guess it doesn't surprise me. I thought it was a bit of a long shot if they were going to start introducing other X-Men, but the only reason I kind of thought that they would was just because of, one, Disney Plus having the big smash success of The Mandalorian earlier this past, end of 2020, when Luke Skywalker appeared at the end of The Mandalorian, I thought, they're going to take some notes from that, and they're going to want to have some big reveal at the end of WandaVision. And two, just because they introduced Evan Peters, I figured maybe they would really start to introduce the X-Men. But if they weren't going to do it, maybe they would just show, like, Doctor Strange, or at least maybe Ultron, which I really thought was going to happen, especially with the White Vision. Just because of how they took the White Vision's character, I understand why that wasn't done. But the X-Men part of it, okay. So Evan Peters was in this, and he plays Pietro. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who have been watching my videos who have been just laughing at everyone saying, like, stop it, he's just Quicksilver. Everyone's making it too complicated, while other people were trying to convince others that, no, it's just stunt casting. Well, this episode kind of makes it seem like it was just stunt casting, that they were just referencing the fact that he did play Quicksilver in a different thing. But in this universe, they kind of make it seem like, no, he wasn't Quicksilver. And I'll at least say, well, at least I wasn't the guy out there yelling that he was just going to be Mephisto all along, because I thought that was just a really ridiculous theory. It's weird that it didn't play out for Hayward, though. They didn't end up doing much with Hayward's character as far as being a villain, which was unfortunate, but, white guy in a suit in a Marvel movie, they typically have pretty boring endings. But as far as Evan Peters' character goes, so he doesn't end up being from the X-Men. As far as this episode goes, he's in it for only a very short amount of time. He's shown to be controlled by Agnes and Agatha, the witch. And he's keeping Monica trapped in one of the houses. But she figures out that this guy is not supposed to be, within that world, her brother, Wanda's brother. It's actually just an actor whose name is Ralph Boner, which is like, so it's just a boner joke. I've seen some people be very ticked about this because, and here's the thing with creating fan theories. Sometimes when things finally play out, it can be a little disappointing. And I feel that way about this show. In a way, a lot of the early stuff was good. The whole concept of this show is brilliant. I will say the thing as a whole was very awesome. And one of the coolest things that Marvel ever made. And it proves that Marvel really can throw things out there with some crazy stuff. Really go wild with the creative side of things. And make some really amazing concepts become a reality. But as far as fan theories go, I will admit that there were some fan theories out there that I thought were much as interesting than what they ended up doing. Now, let's see if some of this stuff still ends up playing out. Who knows? But, that's the unfortunate thing with fan theories. People get excited, and then, they end up getting disappointed. But in the case of Evan Peters, it's kind of different, because this isn't even really about fan theories. This is about a character who played a character in a different franchise that Disney now owns, that people had a liking for, that Disney does want to keep going, wants to keep adding to their already large Marvel universe, in a time where multiverses are being talked about constantly, with the additions of different characters to the Spider-Man movie, to people thinking Tobey Maguire is going to show up, to the fact that Doctor Strange is really called Multiverse of Madness. People want the multiverse. It kind of makes me wonder how much is Marvel going to be teasing us now, because, even with the upcoming Spider-Man movie, where we already hear that Jamie Foxx and Alfred Molina will be in it as Electro and Doc Ock, respectively, it kind of makes me wonder if they're just going to be in the movie, but they're not going to be that version of the character from the original movies that they came from at all, or if they're just going to be cast again, which is probably more likely than them being characters from the original films, because in the original films they both kind of died, so I don't really know how they're going to bring back those characters. But my point is Evan Peters' character apparently isn't supposed to be Quicksilver, which I'm still gonna say bull hockey to that. I still don't believe that. I think he still is Quicksilver. Why? He was only in the episode for a couple minutes. the casting of it is still too much on the nose. Like, it's like they would be pretty dumb to not make that connection. And if they're only doing that as stunt casting, I'll just say that is like pretty much to me the dumbest thing that Marvel's done. And people get mad about the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Which I've always kind of defended, but I'll just say this to me is my Mandarin 3, Iron Man 3. This is my Mandarin reveal. Like, this is one of the dumbest things I've seen. But the only reason I'm not too mad about it is I still think things will play out differently, because I do think that they're going to bring some of those X-Men back. I do think there's going to be a multiverse. I think they are going to confirm it. I don't think they're going to own the rights to those movies and just say whatever to them, especially when they're throwing them on Disney+. I think he's supposed to be from that movie, but they didn't want to reveal it yet. I think they're just screwing with the audiences. And they've done this before, and sometimes not even on purpose, like with the Mandarin. They did that in Iron Man 3. People got ticked, and that was very much the filmmakers and Marvel's intention. But all these years later, now they're actually doing the legit Mandarin in Shang-Chi. So I could see them doing the same thing in this case, where they're just screwing with the audience. They have Evan Peters, but they're gonna not reveal that he's, Quicksilver, even though it's very apparent that he is, until later. Why? Well, my only reasoning I could think of how he possibly is actually supposed to be Evan Peters is because Agatha brought him in there. And he has this information that he's like an actor named Ralph Boner. Well, when Monica found that information, they were in the Hexagon. When you go into the Hexagon, don't you change? Don't you become a slightly different version of what your real self is? So even if he was hired by Agatha or put in there by Agatha, wouldn't he have changed? Wouldn't he have turned into someone else? Like, within the Hexagon, he is an actor, but outside he's actually Quicksilver from the X-Men, who somehow got there from a multiverse, which we still don't have an explanation for, but maybe that wasn't caused by Wanda. Maybe that was caused by something else. Who knows? Some people have also said the reason Jimmy Woo was going to Westview all along was because Evan Peters' character, who is Quicksilver, who is from a multiverse, who ended up there somehow, is in the Witness Protection Program, and for some reason, Jimmy Woo knows this. That's a bit of a longer theory, but I still will take any theory, because honestly, I think there's going to be an explanation, because I don't think he's just an actor. I think there is something missing here, and I don't think it's going to end up playing out where he's not Quicksilver in the end. I think he is. I don't think they're doing that just because. But we'll see. If they don't, to be honest, it's pretty disappointing. And not really just as a fan. Like, I just don't... It's like putting Michael Keaton in the dream sequence. It's like putting Michael Keaton in a movie, a DC movie, with Batman, and they say he's an older Batman. You see him as Batman, and then at the end of it, you're like, oh, he wasn't really Batman the whole time. This was just a homeless guy. And then they show him that was like some kind of dream sequence, and he was like, I was just a homeless guy the whole time. I was never really Batman. And it'd be like if you did that. It would just be like, why are you even doing this? Why? What's the point? So that was a bit long-winded, but that honestly disappointed me a lot. That has really nothing to do with the episode. It's something extra to it. I don't know. It's just weird because even as a Marvel, event goes, a lot of the additional stuff that they usually do, like the after credit sequences, which are usually really exciting and can lead into very obvious directions, they weren't that great here. The after credit sequences both were just kind of like, I don't really know where they're going with this. Like I said, the first one was just a connection to the Skrulls again, which was, neat. They kind of did that already, though, in Spider-Man Far From Home. But they did directly reference it because they're talking about going to space, and that seems to be where Nick Fury is. So he's going to apparently come back at some point. I believe he's getting his own TV show. And Monica is going to be meeting up with him again. I'm sure Captain Marvel will show up there somehow. And the second after credits scene, like I said, kind of redacted a lot of what was literally just done in the whole show, where it was like, it seemed like she was trying to let go of everything, but then seemed like that after credit sequence making it seem like she wasn't letting go of everything. So I don't know. It just seems like I said, the whole thing just makes me feel wishy-washy, and that they don't really want to take one direction or another, just to maybe leave open enough holes for possibilities in the future. But the thing is, you need to be a little more direct eventually. The show was very fun and creative at first. The first 2 episodes were very straightforward, and you would never guess where the show was headed after that. The show continued very good. A lot of interesting episodes, a lot of episodes that just made you kind of shocked and like, whoa. And then things started to really slow down. As far as the finale goes, like I said, kind of a generic ending, but happens a lot in Marvel shows and movies. I mean, it just never seems like they know how to pull off a third act and make it really unique. It's very rare that I think they really make a great third act to a movie. The action was just a little subpar. Even the villain, which the original reveal of the villain was like funny and interesting, but I don't think the villain really played out as great as I was hoping. But that's another thing. Marvel sometimes doesn't have the best villains, so I guess a lot of the things with the show ended up being, typical what we expect from Marvel, but also a lot of really great stuff. So, just kind of like the Marvel movies, a lot of great stuff, a lot of it once in a lifetime kind of stuff you've never seen before. Risks are being taken, but a lot of stuff is being generic, and a lot of stuff's being overdone, and a lot of things like the endings or the third acts anyway, the third act battle sequences and the villains are just a little, nah. I guess I don't really have too much more to say about it. We've been going for a while here. I talked a lot about Evan Peters in there, but like I said, just that was a weird, long nitpick. It honestly doesn't throw me off from the rest of the episode, though, because like I said, it's barely a part of it. The rest of it, I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I've seen this before. But there is a lot of cool stuff in it, It is cool to see the white Vision. It really is cool to see her finally in the outfit. It's cool to see her not really get an ending where the answer is, oh, I'm just gonna be good now. It's unambiguous in that way. But I also felt like the real problem I have with it is the unambiguous way that it shows the powers, it shows the mechanics of everything going on, and the unambiguous nature of the finality of everything, which is, I don't know if this is meant to be a continuation to more events and that she'll be going back to a lot of these characters that she's supposed to be letting go of, or is she letting go of now, or is she truly moving on, and maybe I'm reading something into it that's not actually there. Who knows? But I still really did like the show. It doesn't matter, I think, too much that the ending was the way, that disappointed me, because I think it might lead up to other things that, in hindsight will maybe improve the ending, or it won't give a bad taste in my mouth, which I guess that's not really the word for it, but it's just, it doesn't compel me as much as all the other episodes really did. It doesn't really stick with me the same way the other episodes did, and it kind of makes me feel bad. It kind of makes me feel like, I just wish there was a little more to it, or there was a little more straightforward, or was a little, not straightforward, but like it was a little more, straight up with what it was actually trying to do. I like some of the ambiguous stuff, but some of it is just like, you gotta have a little more bite to it and a little more uniqueness. And for a show that was full of uniqueness, it was too bad that I felt like the last episode really didn't do it as much. But who knows? I'm looking forward to the rest of the TV shows that are coming out this year and movies. So this is a great way to start out. And if you like this video and the different vlogs I did on WandaVision, leave a comment, like this video, subscribe, use that bell icon, especially on the main channel. Thanks for watching.